So, Whiskey, you're making 2D images in a 3D world. You have an entire world and you're making an image?
Well, maybe that's just the way I see the world, because I'm a word-based person anyway, and that's sort of a 2D way to see the world.
And I'm really happy that you agreed to talk to me. What would you say to people who are hesitant opening up for the video series or for the podcast, who want to kind of remain in their shell, which I completely respect. I don't want to judge that at all. Some people are very private.
One of the most important things that I learned about you is that you respect that. Instead of snooping into people's private lives, you are giving us the opportunity to open that door as much as we want and our comfort level. And so for you to respect that was a little bit surprising and super comforting as we went through the process. I never felt like I was exposing too much or giving too much. You never asked for more than I was comfortable doing.
Oh, this washes over me like a warm shower. In other words, people, did you just hear that? I'm not the a-hole that I made out to be.
Oh, God, no. I don't know who said that, but they have serious, serious issues.
Yeah. Hear that, people? Okay. Now, station ID, please, Whiskey.
I am Whiskey Monday, and you're listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. Whee!
Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here with Joe Yardley, 1920s Berlin. You just came in. You did administer first aid at an accident in the real world, in real life?
I just ran up the stairs. Someone got hit by a car in the street, and as usual, I'm the only one who runs towards it and starts helping while everyone else is staring.
Wow. And do you know how to do first aid and everything?
No, I just make it up as I go along. Oddly enough, that's always exactly the right thing because this happens to me all the time. So yeah, it was so I helped this person out, and then undercover police officer came to help me, and it was really cool.
So nothing happened with the victim?
No, she lost consciousness for a little bit, so they take her to the hospital, but she could pretty much walk into the ambulance. And
that's even more exciting than playing the interbellum period with communists and fascists clashing in the 1920s.
I don't know, that can get pretty scary as well in Second Life.
That's good that tragedy was averted. Let's go on with the show. In the station ID, you heard Whiskey Monday, Second Life photographer who came to prominence with her single frame stories that are deep and personal, and she is the subject of the new Drax Files World Makers video. And
I am so excited. Her pictures were one of the first pictures I've ever seen of Second Life that actually that impressed me, that looked good, but they were also heavy. There was something there. They were more interesting than just screenshots.
Of course, Joe, as we go to air, this video is not coming out. It's not coming out before Monday for obvious reasons. Whiskey Monday, You get it?
I get it.
All right.
Well said.
But today on the show, viewer-developer Niran from the Black Dragon Viewer, which has all sorts of extra visual goodies. Niran will talk about what motivated him to get started building his own SL viewer. He's talented, he's young, he's German. That's why he's on the show. No, but fascinating conversation about someone who's really self-taught and kind of able to unleash that creativity through, well, the power of a user-empowering virtual world. So, by the way, if you fit that profile, young, German, and talent, then call us and you'll be on the show next week.
And handsome.
Handsome, and Joe will ask you for your phone number.
I'm way too old-fashioned for that sort of thing. Never mind, forget about it.
But seriously, we have a bunch of folks booked from the new VR world, resurgence, whatever you want to call it. And I have a few high-profile interviews coming up. I want to ask the listener, what do you think about our balance between covering Second Life versus VR in general? Let us know in the comments. Do you think that balance is off? Do you want more VR? Do you want less Second Life? Or do you want it the other way around? I'm sorry, but I have to just throw out there that you can become a sponsor and all this kind of stuff. And I also want to do a shout out to Justin Esparza, who does the show thumbnail image not every week, but very frequently. And Justin Esparza from Caravel Design is a really, really creative guy who delivers not every week, but so close to deadline, these wonderful images that sort of encapsulate the show. So Justin is great. If you have any needs in the graphic design department, you got to click on the banner of Caravel Design on the right side. You can support the show on an individual basis for $100 Linden per month. and we'll send you the subscription device.
The vintage microphone. It's it's really cool. Even if you don't like us, you want to get this microphone. It's really cool.
Exactly. You hate us. You want a microphone that extracts money and sends it to the Drax Files avatar.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, this just in, Ready Player One, a book that is so instrumental and seems to be the new blueprint for virtual worlds going forward. Snow Crash is sort of passé, if you will, but Ready Player One, written by Ernest Cline, is to be directed by none other than Steven Spielberg for Warner Brothers. The Hollywood Reporter reported that.
Fantastic.
Is that fantastic news for you, Joe?
It is for me. I'm a huge Spielberg fan, and I also think that putting his name on it, not just as a producer but as a director, means that it's going to be big budget, and the story needs a big budget. I mean, it also needs a good story, and but it needs loads and loads of money to look really, really cool. And with Spielberg, we're going to get that. So at least it's going to look good. Let
me play devil's advocate. We live in a world where we can write our own stories in persistent virtual environments or MMOs or whatever is your cup of tea. And Hollywood is taking huge amounts of money and admittingly a very accomplished visionary director who always delivers in whatever genre, with a few exceptions, to give us one vision. And I want to see that shift actually more pronounced and maybe even faster, moving to writing our own stories versus just consuming someone else's vision. Again, I mean, I work in my day job in higher budget entertainment. It's the successor to a very successful music video, and there's a lot of budget there. There's a lot of people who are very accomplished, and everybody's sort of working together, and it's exciting work, but it's not really empowering the individual to write their own story.
I used to work in the film, television, and movie business, and I had my own production company, and it was like writing a book. You make something, and everyone has to experience it the way you designed it, which is okay, because sometimes that's what you want as an experience. It is changing. People are making YouTube. The people who make YouTube movies are making more money than famous TV presenters.
Yeah.
It is going towards a world where everyone creates if they want to.
And people who stream trolling videos in Second Life have more viewers than I do.
Absolutely, and I know that hurts. Don't cry, but that's the way it is, and we are moving towards a world where there will be more populistic, violent, screaming TV with lots of nudity, because that's what the people want, and it's all coming from the internet, so there is almost no censorship. But on the other hand, it's also going to give those weird little artistic creepy people who live in an attic where it rains, who make these strange videos that nobody understands, gives them an opportunity to reach a massive audience and actually become famous artists.
Let me just throw this in there, because I don't want the listener to come away with thinking that I'm sort of proposing it's either or. So it's either you make your own story, or it's just the big marketing behemoth of Disney and Warner Brothers and whatever other corporation to kind of push it down. I think this can coexist. But when I read the Spielberg announcement, I gotta tell you, honestly, I'm more excited about what you do, what I'm working on a story about in Silico, for example, which is a sci-fi role-playing environment, and Second Life been around for a long time. I'm very excited about this. I'm way more excited about this than about this Ready Player One movie coming out.
Yeah, if this movie was going to be made in 10 years, it would be completely different, because in 10 years, people like you and me and...
we could be in the movie. We could be in that holodeck.
Yes, but, in 10 years, 14-year-old people can make movies that look as good as a multi-million-dollar budget Hollywood movie. There are already kids out there who can do amazing things with special effects, software, 3D technology. It is moving in that direction where we can all create stuff, and there will always be people who are better at it than any of us.
The question also is, though, is this type of linear visual entertainment, is that era over altogether?
No, it's going to change. But just like books, there is always going to be a need and a desire for people to just sit down and relax and be spoon-fed a story by, there is nothing like someone sitting, while you're sitting by the fireplace, someone reading Shakespeare to you. It's, that's totally inactive, but it's the most romantic evening I can imagine, because I'm a boring book creep.
You're right, Joe. You know what? I'm such an ideologue and I'm a hypocrite. And then I'm reading actually paper books and I'm completely drawn into the story, and I couldn't live without it. I couldn't live without the fact that there are people who are writing amazing books and who have the capability of writing that in amazing language to let me in on their world, and there's absolutely nothing active about it other than sort of moving my eyes from left to right and turning the page.
There will always be a desire for those kind of things, because there are people who are more creative than other people. That's just the way it is. And even though I spend a lot of time in a virtual world, and even though I've made my own movies where I could tell people the story I wanted them to read, to hear, see, I still really enjoy sitting down in front of a screen and watching the most romantic movie of all time.
You like to be manipulated.
Yes, sometimes you just want someone to tell you a story, because that's something we've been doing since the dawn of mankind. Telling stories, listening to stories, not always being part of a story.
Well, this is really fascinating. I want this balance to shift more into the favor of everybody creating more, because I do think that people would be happier and the world would be richer if more people would create and get the confidence and the tools via maybe a virtual world or something like that to be creative versus consuming. But
well, it is already happening in a way. It's small scale, and it's technologies. Speaking on a technical level, it's not that advanced yet. But I'm sorry to always get back to my own scene, but then again, that's where I spend all my time. I live in 1920s Berlin, and I see people having their own stories and relationships and exciting, scary things. They're all these stories are moving around, and I can choose to interact. I can choose to ignore it. I can walk through that city and see these things happening around me. I mean, that's fantastic.
You're absolutely right. And as technology is moving forward, we are getting more tools into our hands, and hopefully those tools will be empowering rather than delegating us to be couch potatoes.
There will always be people who go to 1920s Berlin and sit on a chair and watch everyone else fighting. And that's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, that's passive, even though they are inside the virtual world and technically part of it. They just want to enjoy and watch, and maybe they've had a long day and they're not really in the mood to get involved.
On that topic of interactivity and sort of making your own story, we forgot to mention this last week. YouTube already premiered 360 degrees videos where you can sort of mouse around on the YouTube video and see everything from different angles, obviously shot with a GoPro tree, I would assume, or better cameras, but arranged in a 360 array. There's a bunch of demos out there where you're hovering over a concert with thousands and thousands of people. You can look on the stage, you can look into the crowd. Then you're in a race car. The car is racing on a raceway. You can look out left, right.
Yeah.
And Facebook has announced just a couple of days ago, as we go to air, that they will do something similar. They will premiere 360 videos. Again, I'm sorry, this is just the cynic in me go like... The cynic in me goes like, oh, wow, this is the type of VR that is amazing. You can look out to the left and the right of a race car. And I was like, come on, there's got to be a little bit more than that.
Well, to be honest, seeing a concert with my Oculus Rift would be rather awesome.
True.
And, it isn't virtual reality, but it is 3D reality. Mm. It's 3D film. In a way it's 4D film. I don't know. It is something new and interesting, I think. It's
true. You have agency over your point of view, so the director is maybe taking the back seat a little bit more, giving you a little bit more control. Maybe we see a Ready Player One film already with this type of technology implemented. I mean, who's to know? They're going into production. I don't know when they're going into production. Ready Player One. They're writing the screenplay now, but it might be feasible that at that point, Oculus or whatever else is freely available on the market. Maybe you see movie theaters outfitted with those, and you go into the Ready Player One movie and you actually have a 360 view of the action.
It would be fantastic, but even a theater, a small story, a little movie, a comedy, even. Or a horror movie. Imagine wearing an Oculus Rift, and even though perhaps you can't move, maybe you are in a chair in a room with Freddy Krueger.
Joe, you have a way of selling me the old ideologue some passive experiences. I'm surprised that you didn't mention being in a chair and watching Jack Bauer, torture a terrorist suspect.
Well, I would do that, but I know how excited you get, and then you have trouble concentrating, and we still have a radio show to finish.
On the other side of the spectrum, Magic Leap. The Magic Leap is that company that is working on some super advanced head-mounted display, and Google has invested some $500 million into the company. A video came out, I think a couple of weeks ago already, a day at the Magic Leap office. Kind of starts with an AR overlay. It's from the point of view of the person.
It is fake, though.
They piece this together probably in post-production.
Absolutely. It is not real, but I am pretty sure that this is what they could do, or are very close to making possible.
Let's describe this video real quick. It starts with a relatively normal augmented reality overlay of sort of a YouTube window and a Gmail, checking email. The player goes into a game mode by tapping a menu. All the while you see the real life office in the background. He taps a menu. Steampunk type weapons appear on a table. The player takes one. Robots appear. He shoots the robots, and then but you gotta watch it. I mean, it's impressive if that is actually where they, as you said, where they are going. In short order. Who knows?
This is something that will only work with a headset that you don't mind wearing all the time, because it's augmented, and it's not just for the office. I think this is also, we've seen it before, when you put this thing on, you can sit at home and you can watch television on the wall, and you can have a game on your table and things like that. You are interacting with all sorts of digital things in reality.
It has to look like Ray-Ban glasses.
Exactly. Or something that's very light and non-intrusive. Because if you wear it in the office, it is something you wear all the time. At the moment, we have to stare at a computer screen all the time, which is something we're used to, which we don't really mind. But this you have to wear. So if they can work on a good design set of glasses that you can wear, that's fantastic. Then this is going to be huge, and you can use it at home and in the office, but not for virtual reality.
For our new listeners, Magic Leap, I mentioned this just now, but what they're basically claiming is that they have solved the issue of incorporating virtual images into the real world by knowing where your eyes are focusing and how light bounces off the objects. So we have to wait and see what they're coming up with. Magic Leap has also Snow Crash author Neil Stevenson in an advisory position on board, and they collaborate with the Weta Workshop out of New Zealand. They're responsible for the visual effects in the Lord of the Ring and Hobbit movies.
They're so boring.
They're so boring, yeah. Passive. Meanwhile, by the Hobbit,
I've seen them all.
Yeah.
I am allergic to fantasy-themed stuff, I have to admit. But, because it's such a big movie, because it did so big, because so many of my friends are geeks who love this kind of stuff, I felt I had to go watch them, and I've watched them all from beginning to end, and I've just sat there going, I don't.
We just completely alienated Inara Pei, who is our 5th listener. Unfortunately, Inara, I'm so sorry, but...
Now we've got 4 listeners.
Down to 4. Magic Leap is also going to premiere Age of Starlight. It reportedly is going to premiere at the Manchester Film Festival this summer, and that might actually be the premiere of whatever device they're working on, head-mounted display. Now, real quick, Joe, because I don't know if you read this on Ciaran Laval's blog, who is listener number 3. He writes about a world called Improbable. I just read this. There is... a guy working with this company out of the UK, Dave Hillier, who was formerly with Linden Lab, and Improbable, Ciaran is quoting from an Engadget article the CEO of Improbable, Herman Narula, and he says it's about having no game server. What you've always seen has been game worlds where there's one server for one region and another server for another region. And the servers are actually just the same game engine that's running on your computer. But what if you didn't do that? What if instead actually you had thousands of tiny, very limited processors, call them mini servers, like a swarm of insects? So this company, Improbable, it looks like they're developing a way to deploy massive virtual worlds, persistent virtual worlds, or game worlds. Well, the word persistent says it all. You do something, you log out and you log in, and it's they're all the same, and they're distributed. The computing power is distributed. Sounded like kind of the concept that High Fidelity has, where Philip Rosedale has been saying that they're simulating worlds or even just avatars or animations on machines that are sort of dormant, even cell phones. So it seems like there's another competitor on the scene that could potentially eat the lunch of
Everyone.
everyone.
Well, I think we talked about it, I think last episode or the episode before that. We are at the moment when the virtual reality wars are happening, and there is going to be lots of them. There's going to be several virtual worlds.
And lots of bodies, lots of dead bodies.
80%, 90% of them are probably going to fail, just like all the virtual worlds have failed, except for Second Life.
That's right.
There is no real competition, even though some people like to say there is. I think that's the way it's going to be with the new virtual worlds as well. And let's hope that Second Life Next Generation is part of that. Maybe Facebook virtual world is going to be something completely different. We just don't know. And we have no idea what's in 5 years' time. Everything could be upside down, back to front. It's a very exciting time and a bit scary.
As the Drax File Propaganda Radio Hour with propagandist Joe Yardley, we are obviously rooting for Team Linden Lab.
At the moment, yes, because I hate moving stuff.
I hate moving.
But to be fair, and I'm really sorry, Ebba, don't be upset. But if tomorrow there's going to be an amazing brand new virtual world that is cheaper and that looks better and that offers more for less, I'm sorry, but there is a big chance that quite a few of us will move there.
Loyalty, and I thought it was a Dutch value.
It is, but money is a bigger Dutch value.
I see. On this note, I actually started my high fidelity sim or server or I don't know what they call it. And I can say this, we're in the alpha, but they actually list those worlds that are online on their homepage, highfidelity.io. And it actually did just take 2 minutes to turn my Mac Air into a server that ran that world. And I logged in, and, there's a bunch of prims, voxels that are floating around, and that's it. But I have to say, if you're not a scripter, I think it's not really interesting at this point. And my focus and my time, the little time I have available, I'm focusing on other things. But it's quite fascinating that it took me just a few minutes to start a server that other people could visit and play around. So, that's kind of cool. I think that's going to eat OpenSim's lunch.
I think that High Fidelity is at this moment still in a phase where it is interesting for those of us who understand all the complicated stuff and who are not as blonde as I am or you are.
It's nice to fetishize stupidity. That's what the Americans are very good at.
No, I love it. It's so smart. It's such funny.
Yeah. Now, what I actually forgot to mention is that SL Go on the mobile is now Firestorm only. It's SL Go on the Mac PC is still a choice between official Linden Lab viewer and Firestorm viewer. On the mobile, it's only Firestorm. Dennis Harper, the senior product manager at OnLive, told us that they might offer the choice between Linden Lab and Firestorm on mobile in the future, but right now it's just the technology is not there where they can offer that choice. So they opted for Firestorm because I think 98% of the people use Firestorm.
I know, and I wonder what that's like in regular Second Life.
I'm happy to be one of the 1%ers there in that regard.
It could actually be just 1%.
But you wrote a blog post in connection with that, which I think is really interesting, what if SL Go would be part of a premium membership offering from Linden Lab? So in other words, right now we have a premium membership. It's $72 a year if you pay yearly. And you get a Linden home, which I have. I don't go there. It's a suburb that is pretty much dead. You get a little stipend. And you get a few other tiny little things. You get premium sandboxes and such. But you're proposing, if they would throw in SL Go for the premium deal, that would be a good, really good deal. Explain.
It's just a very wild idea, and generally people are quite excited by it. What if part of you being a premium member of Second Life, you get SL Go for free? That is one of the gifts you can choose from, because of course SL Go is not for everyone. But it could be one of the things that you could choose as a gift for being a premium member. So my idea is that Ebbe and Dennis should go on a nice date and have a long chat and see what happens, because I think they could perhaps make a nice deal. What if they offer this to Linden Lab at a discount? Help each other in this way, because it would be fantastic for SL Go to have all these premium members, and it would also be interesting for Linden Lab, because it would make becoming a premium member much more interesting.
We talk about it ad nauseum. It upgrades every old machine you got lying around. You have mobile access. I mean, compared to the other perks of the premium membership, which have been, ridiculed within the community, quite frankly. Why do I need premium membership to sit alone in kind of a suburb, home that they only has 17 prims?
Of all the premium gifts I've been given, I think only one I found interesting for about 2 hours. I've never even been to my Linden home. I don't use sandboxes. I don't need the lamp because I've got regions.
Would you bring up the rate or have maybe a third way of Second Life membership, maybe a free membership, then maybe a premium membership, and then the third one is the Pro membership, which is a little bit more pricey, but would include SL Go. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, that of course completely depends on what kind of deal Linden Lab could make with On Live, because if On Live says to Linden Lab, if you do this thing, we're going to get so many members, we can bring the price down to $5 a month instead of 10. Then perhaps Linden Lab can fit it into the premium price that we have now, and then it can stay at $10 with SL Go. But if it's too expensive, perhaps they can say, how about a $15 a month premium membership, and you get SL Go on top of everything you already get now.
It's a marvelous idea. I really hope that folks are listening to this and consider it the powers that be. I mean, SL Go is a major incentive to even, spend more time in Second Life, actually. Brings down the barrier of entry.
And it allows Linden Lab to say, we're offering you Second Life the way it's supposed to be experienced.
Exactly. Yep.
So and even though, let's be honest, Second Life SL Go is not perfect. There's they're still improving and changing things, and more things are being added all the time. So
I think it's a great idea. Please, Linden Lab and On Live, talk. Start a conversation. All right, we got to move on before we get to the interview with Niran. Our musical interlude today, Lydia Yardley singing a tune made famous by Helen Kane, the voice of Betty Boop. The song is called I Want to Be Bad, written by Ray Henderson and Lou Brown, also interpreted by Annette Henshaw, great female jazz singer of the 20s and 30s. Lydia Yardley, Joe, she's singing along to a instrumental 78 record.
Yeah, and she performs in 1920s Berlin now and then, and we've always got amazing concerts. It's fantastic.
This is Second Life music. It's not karaoke. It is Lydia Yardley. Here she is with I Want to Be Bad.
If it's naughty to rush your lips, shake your shoulders and shake your hips, then the answer is yes, I wanna be bad. And if it's naughty to bump the man, slip each morning till after 10, let a lady come first, yes, I wanna be bad. This thing of being a good little goodie is all very well, more. And it's naughty to ask for more. Let a lady come first, yes, I wanna be bad. To be or not to be, that is not the question. Cause I decided long ago to be. With me, it's what to be. Now making some suggestions, good or bad, which is the best for me. When you're after fun and laughter, these are grubby. Some reformers say a warmer climate awaits you. If it's naughty to root your lips, shake your shoulders and shake your hips, then the answer is yes, I wanna be bad. Oh, if it's naughty to bump the man, sleep each morning till after 10, then the answer is yes, I wanna be bad. Nobody cares just how blue or how lonesome I am. If I have troubles in life like a dog give a damn, you cried up. If it's wrong to not somehow take just a little kiss by mistake, let a lady come first, I wanna be bad, 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 bad.
So that was Lydia Yalin. Now, time to play my interview with Niran, the developer of the Black Dragon viewer. Niran is from Germany. He is a furry. All viewer developers, Joe, are furries.
Really?
Almost all of them. Third party, anyway. So recently, the Black Dragon viewer, the one that he's developing, caught the eye of Second Lifers because of the volumetric lighting feature. Niran started the viewer development by calling his viewer Niran's viewer and then changed it to Black Dragon. I asked him why.
The reason behind that was Niran's viewer sounded a little bit ego. This viewer is all about me, but I mean, it is my viewer and it is mostly just for me, but I happen to share it, and that's the reason I thought I should probably take a more reasonable name.
I think that's great. I mean, you started to maybe do it for yourself, but now you're doing it for a lot of other people. How did you get started with tinkering with the viewer? Do you have a background in coding or programming?
No. At least not C++ or C#. The background came from XML editing, HTML. I was 12 or something like that, and I asked my mom how to make a homepage because I wanted to make a homepage, and then she just turned around and grabbed that book out of her shelf and put it into my hand and said, "Here, go ahead, make a homepage." And I said, okay. And then, I started reading that book. It was probably the only book I ever read on my own without being forced to, like in school. But a tiny little bit PHP. Later, when I started using Kirsten's View, I started modding it with XML and then LSL scripting, stuff like that in Second Life. And all these coding language, they gave me a very basic understanding of how C++ and C# works, because they all are very similar.
You mentioned Kirsten's viewer. That's, of course, Kirsten Lee Ketty. And I don't know if she still develops. I don't think so. Now, let me ask you, then you started to make your own viewer. What did you not like about the other viewers available? What did you see? Hey, I can improve this, or I want this feature. What was that when you started?
That's a good question. The thing is, when Kirsten's viewer stopped, I was really upset about my favorite viewer going down, and went to the Second Life wiki, looked through the tutorial, how to set up and build environment, and started right away. I just opened Microsoft Visual Studio and said, well, this can't be so hard, so let's just try it. And then I started off by going to the Bitbucket repositories from Linden Labs and hand merging the bug fixes I wanted, because Kirsten's viewer had, I think, 1 or 2 very bad bugs that were fixed in Linden viewers, and the problem was Kirsten's viewer stopped before these updates were implemented. So the first thing I did was implementing these bug fixes because they were a major annoyance. They were basically a total showstopper to me. So I added them and then started adding a few more things. And my mods, which were previously optional, were completely integrated into the viewer as default UI. So basically everything was different, like many users like to call it, even though I think it is not.
My question is, when you started, you said Kirsten Viewer had a couple of bugs that were already fixed in the official viewer. How deep can you look into the viewer code? What is the documentation like that Linden Lab shares with us in order for us to know where are they with the development? How do you even find out, hey, wait a minute, that's where they are, so I got to put that snippet of code into my code to fix it?
That is actually very easy. Linden Labs has the official repositories. You can find the links on the Second Life download alternative viewer page. If you can't find it, just search for Bitbucket, the repository website Linden Labs uses, and then just search there for Linden Labs, and you will probably find a lot of repositories from them. And then you just go into the Linden Viewer Release repository, and there are several tabs, so you can look into the commits, which are basically the change packs. So you can write at those commits, you can look at them, and you can see in which file what changed. And that is, I think, really, really nice, because that's actually what I did. I just went to that Bitbucket page and looked at the comments, and then you can easily see, there's a bug fix for that, there's a bug fix for that, and I just clicked on those bug fixes I wanted, opened them, and it showed me all changes that were necessary and in which file. So all I had to do was open Microsoft Visual Studio, go into that file, and do the exact same change. So if they change, let's say, a number from 4 to 3 to fix something, I just have to go into that file and change that number too.
This is fascinating how you started. So you started really at the very bottom, but you had the patience and then you kept going. I'm actually looking at the third-party viewer now, where it says that the goal of the Black Dragon viewer is to enhance and refine the visuals of Second Life. So going back to that earlier question, was it your goal back then right away to put some visual stuff in there, some visual goodies, to focus on that?
Yes, most of it was focused on enhancing the graphical pleasure to your eyes. First things I did was changing settings, debug settings, which were in most cases hidden away, far away from normal user eyes. Back then, I made everything glowy and even more glowy and bright, and everything was like, wow, it's blinding. I wouldn't consider that fancier today. Over time, I started refining those debug settings I changed long ago and did never, ever touch again because I always thought they were good. And at some point I just said, no, they look like shit. I just can't keep them anymore like that. They just look like shit. And so I looked into those settings, which weren't debug settings anymore because they were in the preferences panel. And then I just played a little bit with them, changed them around, and hopefully made them better.
Now let's go to some specific things that you made. Let's use volumetric lighting as an example. What is volumetric lighting, and how did you get to find that you could put this as a feature in your viewer? How did you even find that Second Life has the capability to display it?
Well, every Second Life viewer and basically every graphical program, may it be Second Life or something else, doesn't matter, can have every graphical feature. If you know what you're doing, you can implement the fanciest of effects in pretty much everything. You could probably give Windows volumetric lighting, even though it probably wouldn't make any sense.
Hold on. But now you're saying every 3D environment can have every feature, but we are limited with the render engine what to display and how light bounces off certain things, no?
That is the funny part. If you got the coding knowledge, the like I call it, the rendering knowledge, all those calculations flying around in your head, which I totally have no skills for right now. Tofu just sits there and is playing with some shader files, just like, oh yeah, and do this, and oh, I could probably do this, and wow, we got these god rays.
Okay, let's back up for a second. Tofu, Buzzard, formerly Tofu Linden. What was his function at Linden Lab?
I know he had a lot to do with shader cleanups, shader features, and probably some rendering stuff too. I think he was one of those rendering guys, establishing those early on graphical features for the viewer. Probably most of those stuff we see as of today, like shadows, SSAO, and all that stuff.
Right, the god rays. What are god rays? Is that the same as volumetric lighting?
Basically, it is. God rays are commonly known as light shafts that break through clouds, windows, or something like that. The sky with sun rays falling through those clouds. And that's basically God rays. But the thing in games and Second Life in this case is that we don't have any clouds that could cause cloud shadows, whatever you want to call them. And therefore, these real God rays. So what he did was the gaming type of God rays. So the sun falls over the edge of an object, like, I don't know, a cube, a house, or something like that. It throws this light shaft.
Yeah, the light gets broken up. The God rays are crepuscular rays. The light seems to be coming directly from the sun and is broken up by the clouds, so by objects, and then gets filtered through those objects that obstruct some rays to go through and others do go through, and then that arrives on the bottom in sort of a whole array of light. Yeah,
those God rays are basically already volumetric lighting, because without volumetric lighting, those God rays couldn't exist, because God rays are basically just the spots where that volumetric light comes through an object or cloud or whatever it is. And what I did is I took out the limitations from that shader file, which hid away all the brightening stuff of the entire world, which was in the sunlight, which wasn't shadowed. Previously, God rays were basically already those volumetric lighting you have seen in the video. The only difference was it didn't work on the sky. It didn't work on alphas, which it still sometimes doesn't. Yeah, and you couldn't see the light being everywhere. That is also the reason I called it volumetric lighting, because, well, the light is everywhere. If you go behind an object, depending on where the sun is, you stand in the shadow of that object, you will actually see that, because everything around you will be bright, because light is everywhere except in that shadow.
So now you have this then displayed in the preferences under the graphics tab, I assume, the features that you offer that are not offered in the other viewers, right?
There are some features like the screen space reflections, which Firestorm has too. And they seem to be very unhappy with it. And it looks like they even discussed to remove it, which I think is on one side good for me, because it's one feature more I got and they don't. And on the other side, it's sad, because I think these features from Tofu, they're worth more than gold. and I think they need a lot more attention.
Let me ask you some more stuff about the general limitations, because that really strikes me. So what you were saying about hidden features, or what I would call hidden features in Second Life, you said you can pretty much do everything. I would contest, I mean, you cannot change the quality of an object in Second Life as it's made. If something is not made well, either in-world or brought in, imported from a third-party modeling software, if that stuff is just not well made, you cannot change that. So let's just make clear for the listener that this is not what you mean. You mean that displaying these things with the environmental simulation, are you saying that there is no limit to what can be displayed?
Yes, there is no limit to what could be done to the graphical rendering of the viewers.
Okay, but then why does my son, who is 11, say, everything I play made in the Unreal Engine looks good and Second Life looks like crap? What would you say to him?
The thing with that is the Unreal Engine is a really powerful engine, and of course, if you use proper models, everything will look right. Everything will look good, probably well made right from the beginning without having to adjust too much. The problem with Second Life, on the other hand, is its rendering engine is currently very limited to what it can do, and there are not that many rendering people, like I like to call them, that actually focus on Second Life.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It sounds like you're a little bit contradicting yourself, because this is what we, the non-technical Second Life resident, always hears. Yeah, you can't do it because it's old. So you can't change anything, but then you're saying that it's old, but then also you're saying you can do everything. So I wonder, which is it? Where is the limit what you can do in terms of rendering?
It's hard to say. I don't know where exactly the limit is. I think you could do quite a lot with shaders alone, and if you add that stuff in the rendering pipeline, you could probably add a lot of stuff still. But the problem with Second Life is simply that its rendering engine is inefficient. It uses, I think, OpenGL 2 at its core, with some OpenGL 3.2 or 1 or something, so something like that. Second Life is a very resource wasting place. If we just went in there and added all the fancy stuff, all the graphic features that maybe other games have, we would end up with no frame rate anymore.
It's like a Volkswagen Beetle, and you put 3 Porsche motors in it, and then the Beetle just explodes at some point.
It is just a patchwork viewer that is just barely holding together.
So is that the main reason why you think that Tofo, as a former Linden, or others, or Runetai, have been held back a little bit to work on these features? I mean, are you frustrated that these features are not, that Linden Lab is not working on those?
I'm indeed very frustrated. The attachment points of each avatar are not symmetric. So if you add, let's say, a cube on both of your sides of your arm, on the left arm and on the right arm, and on the left and right upper arm, and you move them away from the bone so much that the surface is exactly at 0, 0, 0s. And if you do that on both sides, it will clearly show that one of these sides has not exactly the same offset as the other one. So on one side, the cube is, let's say, is away from the arm like half a meter. That's something that has been in Second Life since the beginning.
And can it be fixed?
Yes, it can be fixed very, very easily. I added a patch. I added lots of documentation, how it works, how it can be fixed. I even created a script that automatically fixes these offsets in all attachments. Because the problem Oz told me about is, if we go out and fix this issue, all attachments that were previously matched for this wrong offset will obviously 1, 2, maybe 3 centimeters off, because they will be moved a little bit because the attachment offset moved a little bit. Yes, that is a problem, but no one will ever notice, and those who will notice will probably say, "Oh, thank you, God."
So from their point of view, it's just a small group of people who will even notice, so they have to have bigger fish to fry.
From my view, it's just a small group that will notice that, and those who will notice will probably be very thankful, and all the other people will probably never notice, because either they don't have an attachment slot on the upper arm, which had the biggest offset. All others had so small offsets that I think the server doesn't even register that change. So it will basically look exactly the same.
This podcast is entitled Ranting with Niran, but I nonetheless have to bring it back because I have a few more questions that I need to get in. And I forgot to ask one earlier. The stuff that you bring out, as we have established, the visual goodies that you bring out in your viewer, they're somewhere in there. They're in the debug menu. You go around. So let me just try to clarify. If I would just go deep into the debug menu and tinker around, they're in there, right? So the third-party developers, they just clean stuff up.
No, that's what I did, and I'm still doing for major parts of fine-tuning and enhancing graphics. Let's take depth of field as example. My fine-tunings to depth of field are all just debug settings. That is basically what my fine-tunings are. I just went in the debug settings, changed them so stuff looks better, runs faster, and looks even better. And then I made these changes default because I think they should be default. Like I said, the depth of field changed. I cannot understand why Linden Labs has not changed their depth of field defaults. Sorry, but it is absolutely puzzling for me that they still have this strange depth of field that starts right on your avatar and blurs like everything, the entire world. It is like you put a whole blur on your entire screen.
The next thing you're going to say is that the default camera position behind the avatar is too far away, right?
It is horrible.
And here come the police in the background to pick me up because this is Linden Lab putting me in Linden jail for talking bad about the default.
Putting you into the cornfield.
One more time I have to ask you then, because we're talking about changing things and bringing stuff to the fore that is already there. I guess I misunderstood something earlier about volumetric lighting. Again, volumetric lighting or God rays is basically a piece of additional code then that was put in.
Yes. Don't think this is my work, because that is clearly not my work, not entirely. The God rays feature came from Tofu, and like always, I couldn't just keep it default because sorry, but no matter what you do, I don't like defaults. I totally don't like defaults. That's why I start changing everything. I just can't keep stuff default because default is boring. And that's why I started changing these God ray shaders. And then I thought, yeah, it is nice, but it has these problems with alpha and everything looks broken. So they're like really limited usability for this feature. And I really wanted to fix that. And my idea was simply putting that into its extra feature and shader files and completely separating it, because Tofu basically just hacked it in there into another shader that was normally not meant to do this.
Let me ask a question before I forget, Niran, about your computer. Because people always ask me, what are the specifications of a computer that can run Second Life really well? Can you tell me what your specs are and how much that costs approximately? What do you think would a computer cost? This is a question I get all the time. How much do you have to spend for a computer that can run Second Life the way we see in your videos?
If you counting an entire PC from monitor to keyboard, mouse, and everything like that, you're probably not getting below $700. But if you just take the main components, GPU, CPU, RAM, mainboard, stuff like that, you can probably get a pretty good PC for Second Life for about $500.
What are the main components? Is it the graphics card? What graphics card do you use currently? And you publish it on your blog.
Oh, what was it? AMD Athlon FX, something like that. 6,300 or something like that. It's just a 6-core with 3,800 megahertz, and my GPU is a GeForce GTX 670. I got 16 gigabytes of RAM and Windows 7. There's basically nothing more you need. It's just a halfway decent GPU, which starts at GTX 460, and I would recommend a GTX 660 and the CPU, obviously. The CPU is very important for Second Life, especially. If you can, go for the Intel, I don't know, quad-core with at least 3 gigahertz. I usually run Second Life with 30 to 60 frames, depending on where I am. But usually I'm getting like 30 frames with all the fancies enabled.
So that was Niran from the Black Dragon viewer. Niran is currently working on a menu option to freeze avatars. So you can pose them and then you can take snapshots. He's working on a whole bunch of other visual goodies. Don't hold him to any deadlines, but the viewer is well worth checking out. By the way, on live, maybe get rid of that Firestorm option and put a Black Dragon option in for the mobile. We're at the end of the show. Joe, what are you doing this weekend in SL? Anything exciting happening?
Probably. There is too much happening. I think we're going to have to recuperate from meeting all those Lindens yesterday.
Right. I was there briefly and then I had a previous appointment. But yeah, Linden Lab is doing in-world meetups with tons of Lindens. There was Ziola who puts this stuff together. Torley was there.
Looking fantastic as always.
D. Linden. I saw Oz Linden popped in.
Ebbe was there.
Ebbe was there. Tons of people from Virtual Ability as guests. So good that you mentioned this because I think it's a marvelous initiative. And I don't know how frequent they want to make this, but I think it's vital for communicating between the rulers and the ruled, so to speak.
Yeah, I heard rumors of it becoming a regular thing, and I think that would be fantastic. It was a lot of fun.
Field trips, just like high school.
But sadly, Ebbe wasn't wearing a suit.
And let me just add, Second Life is like high school with all the cliques and such. And the drama.
Yeah, and you and me, we are the geeks sitting in the library every break so you don't get beaten up in the toilets.
Right, from the audio-video club.
Yeah. Let's hope the jocks don't find us. Actually, I'm probably the one beating you up.
At least I would say that the principal has a soft spot for us.
Well.
All right, so guys, don't forget, if you catch this show on a Monday, Whiskey Monday is the subject of the Drax Files World Breakers video series. So watch that video and share it with a non-believer. It's a really great life-affirming story, Whiskey's is, and I'm really glad that she opened up and told this story to the world. There's also positive SL coverage on Wired, the British version of Wired. It's a Second Life artist who makes digital sculptures. I'm not going to say any more. Read it. It's positive SL coverage.
That's rare. Like hen's teeth.
Like what?
Like hen's teeth.
Oh, hens don't have teeth?
Have you seen many chickens with teeth?
I really don't go out much. I'm sitting in front of a screen all day.
Oh dear, you're such a city boy.
What is nature? I don't know. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend, Joe. Goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Leap Motion, SL Go by OnLive, Stitcher, Fateware by Damien Fate, Giza Creations, Arrows Avatars, Maven Homes, Mad Bee Productions, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Ison, Caravel Design, Vega Creations, Humanoid Animations, Loki Elliott, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, What's Next, Uber Animations, Blue Moon Enterprises, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar, Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.